Look, managers get fired. It happens all the time in elite football. It's just part of the job. But the sacking of Xabi Alonso from Real Madrid, that wasn't just another dismissal. No, this was a shockwave that sent tremors through one of the biggest clubs on the entire planet. So what really went down? A bolt from the blue. That's how the New York Times described it. And you know what? That is the perfect description. Because from the outside looking in, everything at Real Madrid seemed fine. But just beneath that calm surface, a massive crisis was getting ready to explode. And then the official announcement just dropped. It was so sudden. No real warning, no detailed explanation, nothing. Just a really abrupt end to what was supposed to be this brand new era for the club. Which leaves us with one huge question. How did it all fall apart so incredibly fast? Okay, so to really get your head around this, you have to understand just how out of nowhere this was. This wasn't one of those slow burn situations where a manager is on a long losing streak. This was something else entirely. The decision was kept so secret that it completely blindsided people inside the club. I mean, one staff member apparently found out about it while he was doing his weekly grocery shopping, just reading the news on his phone. That's how out of the loop everyone was. And here's where it gets really strange. Just the day before he was fired, Alonso was seen celebrating a cup final win with the club president. The team was on a 5-game winning streak. So if it wasn't about the results on the pitch, what in the world was really going on behind the scenes? To find the answer, we have to look past the league table and go straight inside that dressing room, because there were two completely different stories playing out at the same time. The official one, of a strong start, and the hidden one, of a team that was beginning to crack. So if you just look at the numbers, you'd think everything was going great. They were second in the league, they'd just beaten their biggest rivals, Barcelona, and they were killing it in Europe. By any normal standard, this is the kind of performance that gets a manager a contract extension, not the sack. But here is the other side of that coin. See, Alonso was brought in to install a modern, disciplined, tactical system. The problem? Some of the most important senior players felt it was way too rigid. They felt like it was stifling their creativity. Then you add in the fact that super talented players like Rodrigo were being left on the bench, and well, you've got the perfect recipe for a disaster. And what started off as just quiet grumbling in the dressing room, well, it was about to explode out into the open for everyone to see. This wasn't just a few unhappy players anymore. This was turning into a full-blown public rebellion. The breakdown happened so fast. And ironically, it all started at a moment of triumph, that big win over Barcelona. That's when the first real crack appeared. Then that was followed by a collapse in form in November. And the final straw? An act of open rebellion in January that basically made the manager's position impossible. This was the moment the whole conflict just burst into public view. After being subbed off in the biggest game of the season, the star forward Vinicius Jr. completely lost it on the sideline, storming straight down the tunnel. It was this incredibly dramatic, public challenge to his manager's authority for the entire world to see. And then came the ultimate humiliation. After losing a cup final, Alonso told his team to stay on the pitch and form a guard of honor for the winners, a traditional sign of respect. He turned around, expecting his players to be right there with him. They weren't. The senior players led a walkout, leaving their manager standing there totally alone. He had lost. So how does a superstar revolt like this even happen? I mean, to really get it, you have to understand the unique culture inside Real Madrid, a club that's built not just around a team, but around individual superstars. The club has this famous, long-standing policy of signing Galacticos, basically the biggest, most famous, most marketable players on the planet. But when you do that, you create a dressing room with an immense amount of power, where these superstar egos can easily overshadow the manager. And this isn't a new problem. It's a dynamic that has defined the club for decades. And this culture created a very clear divide in that dressing room. On one side, you had new signings and younger players who really bought into what Alonso was trying to do. But on the other side, you had this powerful core of established stars, including some of the biggest names at the club, who were actively pushing back against him. Which brings us to the key question in all of this. The club president, Florentino Perez, he's the one in charge. He's the guy who hired Alonso. So why on earth would he side with the players over his own hand-picked manager? Well, the answer has absolutely nothing to do with football. And this brings us to the final piece of the puzzle. a massive, off-field financial pressure cooker that was quietly influencing every single major decision at the club, including who got to sit in the manager's chair. It all comes down to this number, 1.17 times billion euros. That is how much Real Madrid borrowed to turn their legendary stadium into a state-of-the-art super venue. And let me tell you, this was never just about football. This was an enormous corporate gamble. And to pay off that massive debt, the club needed the new stadium to generate 400 million euros in revenue every single year. And that's not from football ticket sales. We're talking about concerts, conferences, you name it. The pressure was on to turn that stadium into a nonstop, money-making machine. But the plan hit a massive wall. The constant events created an absolute nightmare for the people living nearby. We're talking noise, traffic, total chaos. They sued the club, and they won. A court order suddenly shut down all non-football events, putting that 400 million euro revenue stream in serious danger.
And here is the bottom line. With all that new stadium revenue suddenly at risk, the club's most valuable assets, their superstar players, became untouchable. They were the face of the brand. The financial risk of upsetting them, of alienating them, it just became too great to ignore. So in that equation, the manager, he was disposable. The multi-million euro assets, they were not.
So you see, the sacking of Xabi Alonso was never just about tactics or a dressing room fight. Not really. It was about the collision of a manager's authority, immense player power, and the crushing weight of a billion-euro balance sheet. It leaves all of us with one final critical question. In the modern superclub, who is really in charge?